Planning Commission for Thursday, August 6th, 2026 at 6 p.m. Brandon, let's have a roll call, please.
Wilson. Boers.
Here.
Bowman. Here. Sellers. Here. Nixon.
Here.
Williams. Here. Chair West.
Present. Our invocation this evening will be given by Mitch Wilburn. Mitch, if you'd like to go ahead and come on up. Mitch is the minister at the Park Church of Christ over at 96th and Garnett. I believe you've been there 35 plus years, is that right? Congratulations on that. That's impressive. If you want to say a word or two about your church, that'd be terrific. Then go ahead and lead us in prayer, and we'll stand for the prayer when you get to that.
Just blessed to be a great part of the community here. For many, many years, Coach Alan Trimble was one of our shepherds and elders, and we still are blessed by the Christ-like example that he lived out for us. So let's pray. Almighty God, loving Father, we thank you for this city that you have given us to live in. Father, as humans, it's pretty easy to take some things for granted, but when we stop to consider just the sweet, precious, beautiful community in which we live, we pause, Father, and we reflect how blessed we are. And after we think about how blessed we are, our minds turn to you, the one who has blessed us. We thank you, Lord. Father, we ask at this time that you would give these men and women on this commission great wisdom. You tell us in your word that if anyone lacks for any type of wisdom, to ask for it humbly from you, and that you give in abundance. Father, we thank you for these servants. We know that the roles that they fill can demand much. And Father, we thank you for the sacrifice that they make, time away from their families to serve this community well. Be with them and give them wisdom. It is in Christ Jesus our Lord we pray. Amen.
Amen. Go ahead and remain standing for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Thank you, Mitch. Thanks for remembering our friend Alan. Our first item of business tonight is our consent agenda, consideration and appropriate action relating to a request for approval of the consent agenda. All matters listed under consent are considered by the commission to be routine, will be enacted in one motion. Any commissioner may, however, remove an item from the consent agenda by request. A motion to adopt the consent agenda is non-debatable. We have A through C this evening. If anybody wishes to make a motion with those together, that'd be great. If anybody wishes to talk further about one of those, we can pull that off as well. And item B is property that I own, just for disclosure purposes.
Move to accept the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Brandon, let's vote, please.
Boers.
Yes.
Bowman.
Yes.
Sellers.
Yes.
Nixon.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Chair West.
Yes. Item 2 will be pulled from the agenda. Item number 3 is JZ 26-703. It's a request for a zone change from an RS1 to an RD, which is a residential duplex, general location 822 North Birch Place. Mrs. Hilton, you have a staff report for us?
Yes, thank you, Chair West and Planning Commission. This item was advertised. It is 822 North Birch Place West, and the zoning request is to go from an RS1, which is a residential single family, to an RD. And Mr. Macy, can you find me the zoning map in the staff report, please? I think it's on page 151. No, let's keep going. I'm gonna go the colored one. 151. Okay, so, sorry, this is the land use map. Thank you. Sorry. That's probably why that was confusing. I apologize. So on this land use map, when we get a request, the first thing we look at is whether or not the request meets with the land use map anticipated growth for the city. So this tract is an odd-shaped piece at the end of a street. It's at the end of North Birch Place. And it's a north-south street. What you can see is some single-family residential to the right, and then you have some very tiny, I'll call them row homes. There's a commercial/office piece, which is also a triangular piece. And this is kind of bisected, this area is bisected by the railroad tracks, which makes it a little bit more complicated. Okay, if you'll go now to the, let's go to page 148. So go back up a couple of pages. There you go. So what you'll also notice is that everything on the west side of the railroad tracks is primarily industrial and continues to grow and expand as industrial uses. So this is a really tricky part of town because you have so many different types of uses adjacent to each other. There's also some apartments on the north side of K Place. There's also some industrial uses on the north side. So within probably a quarter of a mile, you have 5 different intensities and types of uses, which is not real common for a city, but in this case, this is an area because of the railroad tracks. In the 1900s, it was very common to have more commercial and industrial uses along a railroad track, and then the homes would infill around it. And then over time, as the commercial uses began to dwindle down, some subdivisions began to come in. So I said all that to say that what this map shows that we looked at first on page 151, that this area is slated for high-intensity single-family. So that could be a project similar to what's a little bit further north, adjacent to K Place. It could be duplexes. It could be a couple of things. And in this case, Mr. Walter Bach, I may not have said that right. I did say it right. Okay. Has requested to do duplexes. He has not asked for a planned unit development, which means he intends to meet the requirements of the zoning code. So this is a duplex project, and the size of the lot dictates the number of units that he can do. And if you look on page, let's go to page 149. Okay, so this is a aerial view, and I would just like to thank Carl for doing the staff report. This is a really great view, and I think it really adds a lot to the staff report. I appreciate that, Carl. If you go to the next page, this is a zoning map, and that shows the current zoning, which is all single-family residential in that area, but the uses don't necessarily reflect that. And then on page 8, there's a snippet that kind of tells you about that comprehensive land use plan map, so high-intensity single-family. I have met with Mr. Walter Bach a couple of times. I, as in staff, not just me alone, but multiple staff members have met with him. We've talked about the requirements from the fire department, which they always have very stringent requirements that you have to meet. We've met with building inspections, engineering, so planning, and he has brought us several concepts and several images that would show a variety of housing types. But with all that being said, this is a land use question, and is this an appropriate place in the community to have duplexes? And staff believes that this is an appropriate place based on the land use plan and based on the request, and staff recommends approval of this request.
Thank you, Mrs. Hilton. Any questions from the commissioners? Go to Rob, Greg, no? No? All right, if the applicant's present, it's Mr. Walterbach. If you would like to come up and have any words to say or present anything to us, that'd be great. If you don't need to, want to, you don't have to. Okay, appreciate it. We will at this time go ahead and open the floor to the public. If anybody wishes to speak for or against this project, we'd love to hear from you. If you would, please give your name and address when you approach, and we'll give you about 3 minutes or so.
I just have everything written out, so. My name is Anita Hayes, and I live with my 100-year-old mom, Helen McLean. She and my dad purchased the house at 923 North Birch Street in June of 1967, which at that time was not in the city limits of Jenks. The address was 9207 South Rockford. Jenks city limits ended at F Street. I began attending second grade at the newly built MacArthur Elementary building, and my mom was hired as the receptionist in the new administration offices located in the front of the cafeteria building. She was the second secretary hired in administration, and she retired there at 62 years old. Within a few years, Jenks City decided to take in our property, and we became citizens of Jenks America. Around 2002, a builder requested this same zoning change at the property just north of the lot we're discussing this evening. They wanted to build 20 two-story condominiums, including a small park. At that time, my parents and our neighbors came to ask the city to reject the zoning request because the proposed homes were too close together and there were no plans for management, no HOA, nothing. They had a very little storage, one-car garages, and over the years, many of those units have been turned into rental properties. There are very small patches of grass in the yards, and they usually go unmowed. And that is one thing that I try to keep our yard immaculate. So and I don't blame them, because when you just have 500 square feet of lawn, why would you want to spend $500 on a lawnmower? So they're very, very close together. Now we have a builder who wants to build 3-story units, which will tower over our 1-story homes and will look out of place. These buildings are not only closer, they are connected as duplexes are connected. It appears you will have to climb stairs to simply get to the kitchen and then climb more stairs to get to the laundry. And once again, there is a small 1,020 square foot children's recreation area, as there was in the other. And I'm asking who will maintain it, because that children's recreation area in the one in 2002 is no longer there and was not there very long because no one was maintaining it. This property is just feet away from the railroad track, which will be an addition.
Come back up at the end and we'll address the concerns if you're able to. Oh, sorry, I was pointing behind you. My bad.
My name is Richard Cates, and my father lives on the property just north of this complex, where this complex is going to be. So he'll be sandwiched between the two complexes. And my concern is, if there's 14 units going to be built, what's the parking going to be like? Because I know you'll have to expand Birch Place for the street, because I know there's a 50-foot easement there. My dad's lived there since the 40s. We don't want to, we don't want to raise his taxes. But we just want him to live out his life and be comfortable there. But my question is the traffic. If there's 14 units in this little small area, and then you put a minimum of 2 cars per household, that's 28 vehicles, then I think there's going to be a park to take up part of that area. And me having lived there almost, most of my younger life, I know that how narrow that gets down there toward the end. So you'll have a problem with rainwater runoff, if there's a retention area, and the parking and the traffic. And so my question is, the excess traffic, if you have the parking areas full from the people with just their vehicles, and someone comes to visit, them using my father's place right there at the end of his property to park. So is there some sort of, I guess, like a barrier that could be put up? I'm not here to fight the zoning. I can't, y'all's the city, you're all's going to do the zoning. but I need to help maintain my father's integrity of his yard. He keeps a nice, it's almost 3/4 of an acre. It's a very nice place. It's Bermuda grass. There's no sandburs in it anymore like it was when I grew up. So, he takes care of his property. He raises a garden. He has all this. I don't want individuals to come in and just park in his yard because there's no room to park in that area. So I don't know what the parking study is, how much traffic can go down through there. Because like I said, there's going to be you'll have to add the extra lane for traffic for an in and out. But how can I help protect my father for that one just outside outside this, where this complex is going to be, some sort of barricade, a pipe area of some kind to help keep people off his yard. And that's basically all I have.
Thank you, Richard. Appreciate your comments. I will remind everyone that this is just a land use issue tonight. Is it appropriate for these types of structures to be on this property? We won't get into the details of the engineering side of it at this point. Yes, sir.
My name's David Cates. I'm here for my dad also. My question is this in any way going to infringe on Dad's place so that they try to move him out early before he's ready to move out to put more homes there? I guess the way of saying it is, will Dad be grandfathered in to exactly what he is now? And can I get that said in an open public forum here tonight so that we can know that Dad can spend the rest of his days right where he is? My mom said that the only way she would leave that place was feet first. She did that 3 years ago. Dad has said the same thing. So I would request that you make sure that he gets that right, that ability to stay there until he no longer needs to be there. I request that happens. Also, another thing I would like to ask, along with what he talked about, was I would like for Dad to have some point of contact in case it gets too loud, in case the trash starts blowing over on his place, some sort of like that can help him to maintain order, that they don't, that he's able to live his life as he has. He'll be 90 years in May. He'll be 90 years old. Let's let him live happy. Let's let him live there, do what he needs to do, and please, I ask that he is able to do that, and you all make sure that does not get zoned against him. After he's gone, you'll be fighting with me and my brother. That's different. That's different. But please don't fight Dad. It won't be pretty. Please. Thank you all.
Appreciate it, David. What's that?
The address.
Sir, what's your address?
David, could you give your address, name and address for the record, please?
Both
Yes.
would be nice.
I live in Cache, Oklahoma. I live in Cache. I'm just down here for Dad.
Okay. So for the record, for public record, please state your address, but then I would like to understand where your father lives.
Okay. My name is David Case, and I live at 222 Deer Drive in Cache, Oklahoma. That's by Lawton. Dad is directly north of this place where you're here. Where that, just past that, there you go. That's him. That's Dad right there. So it's a single home. Dad, the proposal is where the green is. If it happens, it happens. We can't fight that. On the other side of Dad are the duplexes, the other ones. They're squishing him in. But that's growth. That's future. That's fine. I just ask that he does not get infringed on while he still lives there. So did you find out where I live?
Nope, thank you. I'm from Duncan. I know where Cache is.
I'm sorry to leave so fast.
No, that's okay. We can either address that later or now, but it's just whatever.
Go ahead if you'd like to. I was just going to ask, I'm assuming he owns the property.
Yes, so this question before the planning commission tonight, and it will move on to city council usually in 2 weeks. Sometimes it doesn't for different reasons, but generally it goes to the next city council meeting. And the property that we are talking about is limited to the legal notice that we gave. So it wouldn't have anything to do with your father's. You or him or someone would have to have the idea to sell it and develop it differently.
All right. Thank you
it's
so much.
Fully in your control.
Right. That's what I'm asking. We're asking. So thank you all very much.
Yes.
Excuse me. Thank you, David. Anybody else?
My name is Brandon Hancock. I live at 824 North Birch Street. This backs up to my fence line. One thing that I was concerned is the parking, which I know that's all engineering stuff. The proposed plan does not have any room other than one parking garage or one garage per unit, which would spill out into the roadway. The road to it isn't very big, so then it would just spill off into the neighborhoods. I've also understood there's always been a city sewer line back there that has an 50-foot easement on each side, which is why we can't build anything back to our fence line. So I would assume it goes to the other side. And then just the proposed of 3 stories back there, just towering over our houses, looking directly into our backyards, into our houses. I got 2 kids under the age of 5, and I just don't really want people back there looking directly into our backyards. So that's all I got.
Thank you, Brandon. Did we get Brandon's address?
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't. You and I did not.
Hello, good
Hello.
evening. My name is Pamela Smith, and I live at 908 North Birch Street. I moved in 25 years ago in 2004, and it was bittersweet. New homeowner, excited, and the gentleman who had the property, I guess, his home, a single home, did reside there. A fire took him out, and foreclosure came upon him. I think, I don't know the exact, so I won't say, but he came back at the final meeting where he lost his land, and it was said, the man who got my land, he's going to build apartments on it. That was 25 years ago. 25 years ago, and here it has come to fruition that it's come. And so, when I seen the little duplex sign, I thought, oh, well, duplexes, that's nice. Being a little naive girl, I was thinking the nice little duplexes like on B Street. They go with the architecture of our neighborhood, and I thought that would probably fit nicely back there, and would incorporate yards for them, a nice atmosphere, and I was quite taken aback when the proposal, and I know it's been adjusted, you say, but I was quite taken aback with what was proposed. And that's not keeping to the integrity of the neighborhood. And there's not much more expansion that he can go besides the adjoining property. And I didn't think that too many PUDs, even though he didn't ask for it, but the density of what's being proposed to go in this little 0.81 acre slot that is highly restricted with easements, utility restrictions. It's very a compromised piece of land. And so I have deep concerns about it being over developed. And I sit on my back porch. I very much enjoy my backyard. That's my oasis. That's my sanctuary. When I come home, that's where I'm at. I'm not inside watching TV. And I have noticed eagles in the area. They flew right over my roof. I could feel like I could almost touch them, the pair of them. So I think we may want to consider maybe an environmental study, because I know there's eagles in the area. I don't know if they're nesting in ours, but I know that our tree line along the railroad track does house numerous wildlife, and I would hate to see that compromised. the traffic, I'm concerned. Not only do you have just the residents, but you have delivery traffic, you have all kinds of utility traffic. So we have to make sure that the electric company gets back there and keeps those power lines clear from the trees. So I don't know if the new plan gives enough entryway for them to go back there and keep that tree line clear. Because they come through, once or twice every year or so. The tree trimmers, the traffic, of course, because I'm right back there too. And city uses that area to park their equipment a lot of times. AT&T sit back there doing the fiber optics. So we've dealt with parking back there before. But the high density family units in that is 6 to 10 homes per acre. That's per acre, and he's dealing with a 0.81. I just ask that consideration be put into your decision as far as what is approved to go back there. There's families, we have young families, we have our seniors, and these one homes, they're 3 stories. It's not good for young families, and it's not doesn't age well in mobility issues. I've had to deal with a few in my 25 years, and I'm on a single story flat, no stairs, and life throws many curves, and 3 stories. I'm very concerned for the people, and the children and the animals too. It's hard on everybody, but like I say, I just in the construction, I don't know when this construction is going to be planned for, how soon it's going to start, but there's school construction that is planned last till April. And as far as my neighborhood, we've been under an immense amount of stress over this last month with that high equipment, earth moving equipment. It was Monday through Friday, 8 hours a day, high vibrational exposure. It was audio and physical. The whole night, everything vibrated. You couldn't get away from it. It affected your flight or fight. There's a disease, well, not a disease, a syndrome, a whole body vibrational syndrome that we've been exposed to for 30 days.
Pamela, do you have anything else concerning this particular project? We've got a 298-page agenda tonight, so.
Well, I do appreciate it, and if you'll take those into consideration.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
So
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else wish to speak on this particular item, number 3? Any other comments from the public? All right, we will go ahead and close the floor. If the applicant would like to come up and address any of the concerns that he heard, if you have any.
I want to be a good neighbor, first of all.
If you would,
lived in this
if you would
area.
go and ahead and address us, they can listen.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I've built since '94 in the Bixby, Jenks, Tulsa area, South Tulsa area. I've built many homes in Jenks, and I've always tried to be a good neighbor, and I've listened to the concerns even before I came tonight. So I do what I can. We changed our plan. That's a townhouse that I built in Midtown Tulsa that I just kind of moved over here. But after talking with the staff, and we adjusted it to a duplex, and then I heard the concerns about it being 3 stories, so we'll go to a 2-story. This will be a nice community. I'm gonna go with a 55-plus community first, with a nice little park in it. If we're going to see if the demand is there, but these will be well maintained, low density. Pretty little homes. I build high-end custom homes and everything. Check out my website, walterbachproperties.com, or walterbachproperties.com, and you can see the type of the work I do. Everything I do, I have a heart to fit in the community and to be a positive. So, and along the fence, along the property line, I'm going to do an 8-foot privacy fence. We'll keep it 2-story. You won't even know we're there. I think that's it.
Wait, I have some questions for you. First question is I know this is a land use, but I'm just trying to make an educated decision. Like, how big would these townhomes be or duplexes?
Duplexes would be about 1,700 square foot a side.
And where would you put a park in this community?
Down that triangle, depends on water retention requirements and but
I don't know what she's laughing about, but anyway. So this is only 0.8 of an acre,
yeah.
and we're going to put 14 residents in here.
Well, that's a drawing. You guys will decide how many go on there after the code will decide how many actually go on there. That's probably be adjusted.
My thought was about the parking and guest parking, and at 1,700 square feet, one parking garage or one space. From what this drawing looks like, is, in my opinion, not sufficient. Having 2 cars per unit. I'm glad to hear that it's 2 versus 3. I think that would be a hindrance to the people behind.
Yeah.
I know an 8-foot fence is what you say, but I think even some type of other tree or barrier to
Yes, ma'am.
block,
Yeah.
but the 2-story does make a difference for me personally. There's no guest parking. I think that could be a problem for these size units. There's no double parking for these size units. I would be concerned about street parking and then being able to get through the community with tight. I mean, we already have that in some of the neighborhoods, and it's tight. So that I see as a fire marshal or fire equipment hazard to get through. But I'm also looking at 14 units, and I would like to think it's a lot less than that.
Yeah, and that will be evaluated by the fire chief.
That's just my
police chief,
concerns.
Yeah. Any other questions for Mr. Walterback? Nope, right. Thank you, sir. All right, back to the commission for further discussion.
I just want to make sure that maybe for the public, Marseille, that the understanding that the land use today is for the duplex, and that the final details of the plan, the number of units, parking, these barrier fence, the height, et cetera, that is all decided at a later time. And I want to make sure that
That is all, so you're correct. Today is a land use question. Is this an appropriate place for a duplex product? And everything else is dictated by the code. So if the code says it can be 35 feet high, but he says I will not go over 2-story, which he did, that can be entered into the minutes and enforced. But it is straight zoning. So that means whatever the code says is what he can build. He has to meet the parking requirements. He has to meet, if there's any encumbrances because of easements, he has to deal with that during platting. So you will never see it again. You just decide tonight if this is an appropriate place for duplex, yes or no. And when I looked at it, if you had no encumbrances, if you met all of your setbacks, and I did not look at it like that because this is just a drawing. This is not a project today. It's an idea. I don't think he could get more than 10. I think that's what we estimated. But he still has to meet the parking requirement. The parking is based on the number of bedrooms. So there's all kinds of things in the code. There's specific setback requirements. So the question before you, if this parcel is to develop, is it appropriate for a duplex product on this lot? Yes or no? Mm-hmm.
Rob, you've got your mic on. You got something to say? All right. We can entertain a motion on item 3 if we're ready to do that. I do think it's a good idea to state in a motion if it's for approval, that the applicant did say that he would restrict buildings to 2 stories.
I'll make a motion to approve the case numbers JZ 26-703 to rezone from an RS1 to an RD.
I'll second that.
Boris,
Yes.
Bowman,
No.
Sellers,
Yes.
Nixon,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Scott West.
Yes. Motion carries. Item 4 is JZ 26702. It's a request for a zone change from an AG to an RS1 residential and a JL 26-421. It's a minor subdivision. Essentially lot split and lot combination with a general location 11607 South 5th Street. Do you want to do those separately? You got them together in your packet.
I'm comfortable with talking about all of them at one time because they're more or less related.
Okay.
I mean, they are directly related, I should say, honestly. So number 4, JZ 26-702, and then the lot split that accompanies that, JZ 26-421, are directly related. And then the overall project is also related to JZ 26-704, which is tied to JL 26-420. So what I'll do is give you a very high level understanding of the request as I understand it.
Okay.
And then try to answer any questions if you have them. And I think that we can cover item 4 and 5 at the same time. Point of order, I would like to go back to item 3, if that is appropriate, just to make a comment of clarification.
Sure.
Okay.
Please do.
As far as site plan, et cetera, I said you would not see it again, but this property, I believe, has to be platted. So it would come back as a plat. So you would see it as a plat. But that was my clarification because I said you want to see it again, and that's not true. Okay. Okay, so item 4 and 5 is a project located south of 116th Street. And if you've ever had the privilege of attending an event at Spain Ranch, it is a beautiful facility, and they are looking to do some additional improvements to their property. And we are not talking about those improvements, but this would be phase 1 to get moving the direction that they would like to go for the improvements. So I think in the future, we will see another application that would further amend the use of the property and kind of protect it in some ways as well. So what we have in item 4 and 5 are 2 single-family residential lots that were annexed into the city as agricultural properties. And they don't meet the setback requirements for a single-family residential because they came in as out of Tulsa County and were never appropriately zoned, or I should say in this case, rezoned to a residential zoning. What the family of Spain Ranch would like to do is lot split a portion of this lot and tie it to Spain Ranch and sell the property. And then the second lot that we'll talk about, which is number 5, they would also lot split a portion of that property and lot combine it with Spain Ranch, creating additional access improvement opportunities along 116th. And they would sell both of the single-family residential lots. The reason that we are requesting a rezoning is so that the title would be clear for the whoever purchases the home. So they need a residential zoning to have a clear title. That's what was recommended by the staff, and that's why we're here this evening. The 2 lot splits that are associated with it are to serve as future improvements to Spain Ranch. Specifically, the one on the north side of this If you have been at an event and you needed to leave 10 minutes before the event, you're not going anywhere because you can't get out. So I was like, we need to fix this really soon. Anyway, that is the crux of it. If you will go ahead and go through the images, Brandon. So here's the second parcel. So this would be item 5. We're back to item 4. So you can see in the big scheme of things, there's Spain Ranch to the right. You can see where the pond is and the accesses that they have. They have the one access coming off of 116th Street. You can go on. This is the second lot. We're back to item number 4. So this is the land use map. And here's item number 5. This is the land use map. So these were intended to be single-family residential. We have the event space, or we call it in our zoning code, the assembly use. And this is the platted lot. So you can see item number 4 here. Item number 5 is platted as well. What we request is a zone change from ag to RS1 with a lot split on item 4 and a lot split on item 5 with lot combinations to the main property known as Spain Ranch. How's that? Confused?
Where's the, are you finished? Are you ready for us?
I'm done.
Okay. Where are, so I understand the combination of the triangular piece on the north lot and the combination of the rectangular piece on the southern lot on number 5.
Mm-hmm.
Where's the combination onto the Spain Ranch property?
This one here.
Okay, so that triangle is Spain Ranch property currently.
Robert will have to no, the train, they own it, okay, they own it, but it's tied to the single-family residential lot. And they want to sell.
They own the lot too, right?
Yes, but they're trying to sell the lot, so they need to remove that piece from that tract. And attach it to,
So the triangle's gonna get attached
yes.
on this picture to the right to the
Yes,
Spain
sir.
Ranch property. It's not being attached to the residence.
No,
Okay.
it already is attached to the residential.
It currently is. Why doesn't it show it as such?
What did you mean?
Just a minute, Robert. We'll get to you. Hold your horses.
Can you zoom into this one here, Brandon? It's showing that. So this is the, so you can see tract A. So tract A gets combined to Spain Ranch, and then they sell lot 1, the balance of lot 1, block 6.
What did you mean they can't get out? I don't.
Yeah, I was
I
gonna
got
ask that
stuck
too.
there before. I had to leave. I was at an event and I
Are you
needed
just
to
talking
go.
about the large
The-
number of people trying to exit?
No, the
all at
entrance
same time?
in is one lane.
Yeah,
It's
and I've
very
been there.
dangerous.
Yeah.
And if somebody's trying to get out and you've got 50 cars coming in, you
So
can't.
they're looking to widen the entrance and exit is the.
I'm looking
is
for
the-
them to widen the entrance.
is the need
If they
for
do anything
this.
else, they're gonna widen it. Yeah.
So this small triangular piece enables them to do that? Is that the
It's part
actual
of their plan,
purpose?
yes.
And then what about the other? I'm confused about that.
The rectangle piece on 5.
The, that piece also gets tied to, Spain Ranch.
For what purpose?
I don't know the purpose of that one.
I have an idea.
I think it would be problematic to have something exiting there in between homes.
I don't know that it is, I don't know that the plans have been hammered out. I'm not opposed to allowing it to be combined, but we can ask Mr. Bell if he'd like to elaborate on the future plans. I see what you're saying, yeah. But I also think that for emergency services, which I hope that is what it's for, that is a good idea.
Take your microphone off, maybe.
Why on page 164 does it not show the rectangular section, and on page 165 it does. Is that after? Some of them have it, some of them don't.
Yeah. Mr. Fritchen did the exhibits, and I can allow him to speak to that because I did not make these exhibits. Do you remember, Carl? Was that based on the site or the lot split documents that were presented? Go to page 165, Brandon. So there you see the northern triangular piece that's part of the lot split. That little tiny rectangular piece.
Yes.
That they were asking, what is the purpose of that? And I said, we'll let Mr. Bell enlighten. And Chair West is asking, why does that rectangular piece show up on this page but not on the previous page?
Because it's not a lot. You're just seeing this line
Yeah, that's
as
not
a line.
That's just showing the what's
That's
being
what I thought.
rezoned.
He's just showing you.
That's where
the
the,
new
Th-
line
this
is.
is
that's the split.
yeah. So
If you go to
this
the lot
It's
split
pre-split
case,
and
you'll see-
post-split.
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
So this part is the part that's being rezoned only,
Yeah,
and
to
this is
RS1.
staying the same. This is staying ag and going to here, so that it just looks like a new lot right there. That's why. Same with this one not showing up right here, but it's on the other page.
So he showed you on page 164 what item number 4 on the agenda looks like. And it shows that little triangular piece separated from the subject property. And then he shows you on page 165, which is item number 5, showing you where it will be lot split.
I think it's a little confusing because it doesn't show what it, I mean, yes, maybe further on page 168, so we're to compare 168 to 162, which here's the lot, and then the request is to change it to 162. There would be the new lot. Is that correct? And then the same thing on the other one is, here's the original on 169 to be changed to the proposed 163. I just want to make sure I'm understanding because it's,
Yes.
okay. And I think that's to what Scott was.
I think so, yeah.
Yes.
So we're still, again, talking about the rectangular piece being added to Spain and the triangular
Correct.
piece being added to Spain.
Gives them a point of access onto South Fifth Street.
Yes. So you have
Yeah.
2 single-family residential lot uses zoned ag that need to be rezoned so that they can be sold. And each one of those parcels have a portion that we are requesting to lot split from that single-family residential lot and combine to Spain Ranch, their overall property. So the very top piece of JZ 26702 is the triangular piece that would be attached to Spain Ranch, and then the rectangular piece would be attached to Spain Ranch.
All right, everybody understand what we're trying to do, or what the application is for?
So if that is an entrance or exit, I don't know if this is the appropriate time to talk about it, but what does that do for all these other residents? If a bunch of cars are coming in and out?
I think we'll let Mr. Bell go into the details of that. Most likely that would be emergency access only. I can tell you again from experience, if there was an emergency, you should flee your car and run because you're not getting out of there.
Why wasn't that dealt with at the time?
I was not here. Ask Mr. Bell. I think this was his project.
Okay.
Is the applicant present, representative of the applicant?
My name is Robert Bell. My address is 101 East Aquarium Place in Jenks.
It's your time to speak, sir.
I'm glad to stand up here and try to clean this up. First off, the triangle piece on Lot 1, Block 6 that's getting split off to Spain Ranch will have nothing to do with the access road, because there's enough area at the gate it'll be split into two roads. One will be in and one will be out, and that'll be on the existing Spain Ranch the way it exists right now. The triangle piece, I don't have an arrow, but the reason why Spain Ranch was concerned with this is that triangle is right here. That area will be transferred to Spain Ranch. And so you can see there's all kinds of area where we can put a double road in on the existing ranch area at that point. If you remember, if you ever drove down 116th Street, there was the previous owner put a carport out there. They put a boat under it and they put an RV under it, and that blocked the entrance in the area to Spain Ranch, and they don't ever want that to happen again.
It didn't block the entrance. He just didn't like the way it looked. He didn't like the way it looked. Yeah.
It affected the view of the entrance to Spain Ranch. So they wanted to buy that parcel, take that carport off, which they've done, and then transfer that little triangle so they can make it pretty, put more plants out there, and never have another building on there, so their entrance to their event center won't be affected. So that's that parcel. The third parcel down, there's an area in there that has a water course. That water course comes from that neighborhood to Spain Ranch Lake. And over time, there was a lot of silt that came down through there, and Spain Ranch had to remove all that silt from their pond, and they did that about 10 or 12 years ago, and so they want to control that. Also, there is a proposed development, we're in the process of that. That will be an access point for the neighborhood to put underground piping possibly to get to utilities that is located in Oakwood. So why are we here on the zone changes? The zone changes are the squares where the houses are, outside the rectangular, outside the triangle. Those areas will stay, the rectangle and the triangle will stay agriculture because it's being transferred to agriculture. When properties are brought into the city of Jenks in the 60s and 70s, it was by policy that it be annexed as agriculture. So this whole subdivision was already created in the county and was annexed into the city as an agricultural piece. So I think that's wrong, and we actually tried to change that over time, because you've got a couple subdivisions that's agricultural and there's a problem because those are smaller lots. One of the problems that come up in that process is that doesn't meet the minimum 2 acre size. And that's a requirement of the zone. So when we do the lot splits, we're increasing the nonconformity. We're making it less than, it's already less than 2, and we're increasing it to even less than what that is. That's not legal. So what do we have to do? We have to create the zone that makes it legal to make it a lesser parcel. So RS1 fits. This property, once it's divided, the lesser piece will be the size of an RS1 lot, and it can move forward. So the whole purpose of this is that we've got an agricultural lot that's in non-conformance to the zone because it's not 2 acres, and we're we're increasing the nonconformity, and we need to fix that, and that's the purpose of the zone change. Does that help?
Yes, sir, a whole bunch. I think we understand what we're doing. Well, hold on, I've got a question for you, though. We understand the purpose and going from ag to RS1 for those two pieces of property. I like what they're doing with the triangular piece. I understand that. It will make it look so much nicer and protect those sight lines. How wide is, I think what we want to know is what's going to happen with that rectangular piece. How is that where the creek runs through into the pond right there?
That's exactly where it is. And in fact, I saw the previous picture, Brandon. Not that one. Nah, go the other way. I think back one. Go.
Should be 160. You want the lot split case?
I just want to know how wide that rectangular piece is. Does it say on here?
Yeah.
It's the survey will have it. It's really, I think it's about 20 feet maybe. I'm guessing now.
I think some of us have concerns about that being an access point to the new subdivision.
It will not be an access point because the water course to the lake.
Yeah, right. If the creek runs through there and it's only 20 feet wide, you're not going in and out of there.
Yeah, it cannot be an access.
No.
But it will be an access for utilities.
Utilities, sure. Okay. Does that answer your question? It does mine for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense that they want to control that water and keep it clean and waterway and keep it clean, et cetera.
So the area that drains into on the Spain Ranch was a muddy bog for years until they got in and cleaned out all the silt. All that silt came through that creek to that. So it's cleaned up now. They actually increased their stormwater detention area dramatically. Hopefully, when we get in the engineering, they can be accredited some of that, but we'll see.
Would it be possible to have that dedicated as a drainage easement, if that's what it's going to be for? Utility easement, drainage easement of some sort?
Yes.
I think it would be. Yeah, I definitely, it's not going to have any buildings on it. It's not going to have, I don't want to restrict it to be a public utility easement right now, because there's other utilities and other issues that'd be my concern.
Okay.
Happy to say that it's not going to be, it's going to be used for stormwater and it's going to be used for utilities in some fashion.
Any other questions for the applicant, Mr. Bell? Nope. Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Appreciate the insight. We'll go ahead and open the floor if anybody wishes to address the commission on this agenda item. These two items, actually, 4 and 5. Does anybody else wish to speak? All right, we'll close the floor. And I guess we'll do two separate motions here, one for 4, one for 5, which would be 26-702 and JL 26-421 for the first one.
I'll make a motion to approve item 4, JZ 26-702 and JL 26-421.
I second that, yeah.
We have a motion and a second. Let's vote. Brandon?
Boers?
Yes.
Bowman?
Yes.
Sellers?
Yes.
Nixon?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Chairwist?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve item 5, JZ 26-704 and JL 26-420.
Second.
Boers?
Yes.
Bowman?
Yes.
Sellers?
Yes.
Nixon?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Chairwist?
Yes. Motions both carry. Agenda item 6 is JZ 26 PUD 127, minor amendment 1. A request for a minor amendment to PUD 127, which is Fraser Falls, to remove the requirement for shared amenities with Fraser Meadows and other PUD clarifications. General locations 12701 South Harvard. Mrs. Hilton, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair West and Planning Commission. This is actually minor amendment number 5. Oh, I have it as 1. I don't know why. Nope, that was 5 on the other one. Lies, I'm speaking lies. Okay. this is
5 was
number
on
1.
C.
Okay. This project is most often referred to as Fraser Falls, and there was a small window where it was referred to as Fraser Meadows 3 and 4, but we will call it Fraser Falls, and this is minor amendment number 1. Thank you. So the request is to clarify and establish the division of amenities and other PUD language between 2 adjacent subdivisions. So this was originally approved, and I have in your packet the project summary, which starts at the bottom of page 2. So in December of 2024, the PUD was approved to allow for public streets and shared amenities. So if you look, originally it was approved as a private gated community. And then Mr. Wilmershauser, before he actually started, after the PUD was approved, but before any lots were sold, he came back and asked for, I should say any lots were built, he came back and asked for an amendment to allow the streets to be public and for the subdivision to be public. So there's kind of the project summary in there if you want to look at that. The neighborhood showed up in our conversations and had a lot of questions. I have an ongoing email from Mr. Albright that asked for clarification, and I have corresponded with Mr. Wilmershauser on multiple occasions and trying to nail down, because going from a private gated community in theory, which was approved, to a public community is fairly straightforward, but there's a lot of little details that still have to be worked out and probably became more and more apparent as we move towards getting his project really going. So I'm going to go to on page 1 of 14 or page 188. It talks about the actual project and then the details of the PUD. And on page 2, or 2 of 14 or page 189, that kind of continues. And I included the questions that Mr. Albright and I have had discussions on. So we've talked about the fence, we've talked about sidewalks, we've talked about sharing of amenities, and we talked about the PUD, the actual PUD document. So as you know, when a PUD is approved, you have the UDO is our lawful guiding document. So that's what is enforceable by the city of Jenks, is our Unified Development Ordinance. But if you have a planned unit development, then that overrides the UDO in instances where there were exceptions made to the code. So if there's an element of the code that they wanted an exception to, and I can give an example like the duplex. So if the gentleman who asked to do duplexes said, I want to allow for 10-foot front yard setbacks or whatever, then he would have needed a PUD, and then that would have become the law. And I say that for the public because you all already know that. So for the benefit of the public, so this request is a minor amendment approving qualifying request regarding shared amenities, the fence along 128th, and clarification on the gate and other miscellaneous items. So I made a recommendation to the applicant and to you all to bring this to you as a minor amendment. And we had a resident say that they felt like it should have been a major amendment. And we have in the code what qualifies specifically as major minor. But there is a statement that says, let me see if I have it in here. What page is it? Here it is. On page 199, if there's an increase in density, these are major amendment, the list of major amendments. Increase in density, increase in the height of buildings, reduce open space by more than 5%, modify the proportion of housing types, change parking areas in a manner that are inconsistent with the UDO, increase the approved gross floor area by more than 500 square feet. And some of these are more relevant to commercial projects instead of residential. Alter alignment of roads, utilities, or drainage, result in any other change inconsistent with any standard or condition imposed by the city council in approving the planned unit development and or approved site plan as determined by the city planner. So a minor amendment is any proposed change to an approved PUD that is consistent with the standards and conditions upon which the planned unit development was approved, which does not alter the concept or intent of the PUD, and is not considered a major amendment as detailed in this section. So based on the approval and the process that we went through and the understanding during the hearings of what was important and relevant, and I chose to bring this to you as a minor amendment. Let's see. If there's anything on this page I want to share with you. On page 191, you see the general location is between a quarter and half a mile north of 131st Street, and it is west of Harvard. And this is directly north of and adjacent to Fraser Meadows 1 and 2. You have on the opposite side of the street, we have what we call that dandelion lot. And then further south, you have some other new developments coming in. You have Providence Hills south of 131st on the same side of the street. And then we have that large 80-acre tract, which we've had many, many meetings on, and no one, to my knowledge, has purchased it. On the land use plan, they are good to go. There will be no changes in the zoning today and no changes in the land use plan or any intent. So on page 92, this was part of the original staff report, and what I did was went through and highlighted the areas that Mr. Albright had brought to our attention, and then also the areas that the applicant is requesting changes to. So the left column is unchanged from the original PUD approval. There might be some grammatical things, but I don't think I changed anything. I try to always let you know or highlight it. The changes in the right column, which it says approved plan, and then anything that was requested for today's hearing, I put in red. Now, I will say there was some language in there that I struck through so that you know it was there originally, but I marked it through. All right, so this is Fraser Falls. And the first couple of things, nothing has changed. So the big change request is in the original plan for approval, there was no shared amenities in the original plan. And that's because this was a private gated community, and you would not normally have a community that was not gated sharing amenities with a gated community. So originally, there was no shared amenities, and then they brought it in, and I don't know if you remember, but a lot of the conversation was the expense of maintenance and upkeep of amenities. And so a lot of developers were saying it's very expensive to have a pool. It's very expensive for the HOA to maintain it. So we'd rather do something different. And at the same time, there were existing neighborhoods that were actually asking new developments to share their pool because of the expense. So it was kind of being batted back and forth on several projects at the same time. And in this case, it was going to be no longer, I'm trying to give you all the history because I don't know if you were all here from the beginning. So in this case, the project was no longer going to be gated. And to some degree, they were calling it, well, for sure, they were calling it Fraser Meadows 3 and 4. So now you have like a half-mile subdivision, right? And it would make sense that if that was the case, that perhaps they would want to share the amenities, etc. So in the approved document, it said that there would be a shared use of the pool in Fraser Meadows, and that if they, in doing so, they would expand the pool area with a deck and add a pavilion and a larger play set. And then I put in red, so this project was approved for up to 130 homes. It is drawn in at about 106. So just always kind of keep that in the back of your head. What a developer desires, the lot yield that they need or want or desire, is rarely what they actually get. And thinking back even to the conversation we had earlier, it's very hard to fit what you really want versus what you get. So in this amendment, PUD 127, minor amendment number 1, it says, due to the request of current residents in the adjacent Fraser Meadows, Mr. Wilmershauser has asked to amend the PUD to keep the amenities separate between the two subdivisions. If this amendment is approved, the city of Jenks would not require sharing of amenities, because as it was approved previously, they were required to share the amenities. So options for HOAs. Now this is me talking. This is not a request of the applicant. This is what I said. There could be options such as private so just a reminder that when an HOA has a direction that they want to go, they put it into their bylaws, and they are by law they are allowed to enforce those. But the city of Jenks does not enforce private covenants. So if it's written into a PUD document, the city of Jenks can help enforce it. If it is an HOA document, they are required to enforce that with whatever standards and rule of law that they have accessible. So they could either the HOA may elect to allow for shared amenities with or without appropriate fees, or either subdivision may elect to add additional amenities at their own cost. So my point in that statement was, if I moved into Fraser Falls and my HOA says, these are your, you have a sports court, blah, blah, blah. But I have a 6-year-old and a 7-year-old, and they love to swim. So it would be really convenient for me to go down to the pool below me and take my kids swimming every day. So to me, it makes sense. And this is just a suggestion. I'm just telling you how I was thinking. It makes sense that maybe the HOAs could at least write in something that said that I could pay X dollars to allow my children to come and swim. I don't know how that would work. I don't know if my kids have to wear a band or whatever, but you'd see what I'm saying. Like maybe there could be some middle ground so that if not everybody wants to pay what it would cost to help maintain a pool, at least some families could have that option. That was something I thought might be an option. Or they could just, I mean, you know, if you really want a pool, then Fraser Falls would just have to work through that and build their own. So some thoughts. Okay. There's a lot of questions about, let's see, I'm going to have Brandon to turn to page 8 of 14 or 195. Okay, if you'll zoom in just enough that we can see all 4 of these at one time, that would be so awesome. Okay, so Exhibit 4 is the private gated community that was approved as Fraser Falls. So this shows an access off of Harvard, And then it shows a gated connection on the south. And that street's been renamed a couple of times, so I'm not going to call it anything right now. So Exhibit 5 is the, well, let me go down. Exhibit 6 below it is what was approved in the actual amended PUD document. So when we did major amendment number 1, this was the concept, because I don't know if you all remember, but Planning Commission said we liked the original approved plan. And I'll say Charlie said, I like the original approved plan. And so he went home and he sketched this up by hand, which I thought was really well done. And he said, I'll go back to the original plan as close as I can, and I think I can get this lot yield. And that was what ended up getting approved at City Council. So then reality sets in. This is the conversation we've been having all night. There's all this pie in the sky ideas, but then you have to draw it to scale, and you have to get the numbers, and you have to get the size of the lots that are adequate. So the engineer of record drew exhibit number 5. So this is the preliminary plat that they first sent. And I said, no, we're not doing that. Because what was approved originally as Fraser Falls had one access to the south. You see that one access to the south in exhibit 4. And then when Charlie built or brought you the second document for approval, it had one access to the south. And then they had 3 accesses, and I said no. So we talked through it, and what we came up with is that, can you zoom in to that top corner, Brandon? Yes, please. Okay, I want to see that bottom row. Okay, so there's the cul-de-sac for Fraser Meadows, and there's an access there, because what happened is you lose lots and you lose good connectivity when you have a cul-de-sac there. So what you don't see on here was an effort to do one road, and they had a cul-de-sac on the right, a through street in the middle, and a cul-de-sac on the left. Because another issue that was brought up during the hearing was speeding all the way up on the right. I don't know if y'all remember that, but that was kind of the thought. So I said, no, you can have one access to the south, and the other 2 either have to be cul-de-sacs. And then we were kicking it around. I said, or you could gate them, not because it's a gated community, but because that allowed the developer to have more traditional looking lots. So they're now rectangles instead of on a cul-de-sac. And it also met the intent and the spirit of the UDO, or of the PUD that was approved, by only having the one central access to the south. So that's what was agreed on, that the 2 streets on the east and west side would be gated, even though the gating would only be used by emergency access. So one of the issues you have, if you'll zoom in, Brandon, is so now you talk about the details, right? So in theory, we're now meeting the intent and the spirit of the PUD that was approved. But you can't have a fence forward of the face of your house. So lots 1 and 3 there, so lot 1, block 4, and it's 5, I think, lot 5, block 3, your house is going to be set back 25 feet, and you can't have a fence forward of the house. So there's 25 feet on each side of that street that's not going to have a fence. Are you following me?
Not that part.
Okay. I have an exhibit. Oh, if you'll go to the page. Sorry, go 1 page up before that. Okay, zoom in right there. A little bit more. Okay, so you see the pink box. So that's a lot. And then you have, I'm going to have you to go ahead and zoom in to just, it's duplicated on both sides. It says the same thing. Just zoom in. Okay. So that green line, so the red line on the very bottom is where you would have a fence. And one of the questions before you tonight is, would this be treated like a street adjacent to, or yeah. So along Harvard, you have a subdivision fence, right? So in this case, this is not a private gated community, and fences are built as the homes are built. But we have this weird issue where we have fences that are part of a gated solution. So they can't have a gate forward of the house unless you all give them permission to. And then the other question is, who builds that fence? And I think that it can be the homeowners at the time. And Charlie says he will make a very nice entry feature. But where that green is, that's from build line to build line. So there will be a fence in that area, but the gate, there will be a gate in the green area, but the fence itself would stop at the 25-foot build line. See how complicated it got real quick?
When you say you can't have a fence forward
That's a UDO.
of the home,
Yeah.
which homes are you talking? You talking about the ones in Fraser Meadows?
The pink boxes could not have a fence forward of their 25-foot build line or the face of their house. So if their house is
it can't
set-
extend
right,
further east or west.
you would have to
of their
approve it
build line.
tonight with your recommendation to allow them to
We
build.
do that mostly for visibility on turning corners.
Yeah, you have to have a 15-foot.
And
But
we're
you
not
could
turning
still-
any corners there except at the
For emergency.
at the open entrance would.
Mhm.
Are you saying that just on the side where the gate is the only place that there's that exception, correct? Where that green
They
area?
wouldn't be allowed none of them are allowed anywhere, but I would be asking you to consider an exception if you think it is most appropriate for the fence to go to the gated area.
Correct. So just on the,
Just on the
along the bottom.
Yes, where the bubble lines are.
Right, okay.
So green kind of represented where the gate would be, because that's where the fence would stop naturally.
But they can't on the other side. In other words, we could.
It would,
make the
in
condition
the
to
middle, it would not be like that because it's not a gated community, but on the right side, it would reflect the same thing that you see here. Brandon, can you scoot it over to the right side? There you go.
I mean, on the physical lot, the other, if they have a fence line on, going around the other side, you want to make sure it doesn't extend towards the front,
Correct.
past the front of the house.
Yeah, that is a rule in the UDO.
Correct.
That a fence
Okay.
cannot, a privacy fence cannot. Sometimes you can do like a 3-foot or a 4-foot transparent fence. So you could have little metal railed fence at a certain height because you can see through it, so
Yeah.
you wouldn't have the visibility challenges.
I was just saying that for the purpose of making that distinction
Yes.
on the approval.
Thank you. So have I confused everyone? A little bit. So I'll keep
I think
going.
that's a pretty good. I think sounds like a pretty good solution so far. Keep
Okay.
going.
So that is what is kind of drawn out for you at the bottom of page 5 of 14 or page 192. This shows where there was originally a secondary access. It changed to 100. I'm going to call it 128th, and there became 3 accesses, and 2 of them were gated for emergency services only, and that was to keep the intent and the integrity of the original approved PUD. The perimeter fencing, screening along the north side. So this is where I'm talking about that very gate and street. Determine if the screening fence is considered a perimeter fence like Harvard. If you consider it that, I don't. I think that it should probably just be whatever the individual wants. But if you think it needs continuity, then that's something you need to talk about and make that recommendation. Is the fence required to be installed by the developer? Is the fence required to be installed by the individual lot owner? The fence will be interrupted by the emergency gates, and the fences are not supposed to be forward of the face of the house, which is what we were just talking about. So those are kind of the issues that came up when you start dealing with the details of the approved gated accesses. So Let's see. We did not change much. If you start looking at page 6, 193, there were no changes actually in any of those book and living standards. So we looked at the exhibit 3 or figure 3, which shows the plat exhibit showing conflict between the UDO and the PUD in regards to the look and installation of the screening along the north side of 128th. And then the last thing is there is a sidewalk drawn, but it does not make any sense necessarily to put a sidewalk along that north side. So that would be another exception to the UDO that we would need you all to make a decision on. Okay, the next section of the staff report is specifically talking, it's really straight, that blue italics is straight from the code. So I would like to also say that on Friday, there were 2 A-frame signs installed at the subdivision, and around 5:30, I finally made it out there to put a courtesy notice, because I did know that this was, I felt strongly, a minor amendment, but I also wanted to make sure that the members of the community who have been at these hearings all along would know that there was a meeting tonight. I did request that if the HOA had any, they haven't taken over the HOA yet at Fraser Meadows, but if they had any questions or concern that they would be here. They could not be here. They actually had an HOA meeting already scheduled, so they could not be here to speak on behalf of the shared amenities or any of the other issues. Let me see what else. So there was a courtesy notice. So they've known, the neighborhood has known since Friday evening, I'll say, that there is a public hearing tonight, and we did that as a courtesy. It had the language saying that we would discuss the shared amenities and clearing up some of these other issues in the PUD. And it gave it had a large QR code that you could scan that would take you to the agenda, which unfortunately was quite large. So that might have been a minute to dig through, but they did have access to that. Even though it was a minor amendment, we would not normally do that, but I had on more than one occasion stated that I would keep the public notified and informed if we did any other things. We actually advertised the other minor amendment as well for Fraser Falls or Fraser Meadows 2, where we did the lot line adjustments. So everyone in the neighborhood did know since Friday about both of those. Hey, okay. So I have about 6 different things here, but mostly we need the access clarification, the perimeter screening question, the sidewalk question, should there be a side yard setback greater than 5 feet along 128th? And there's multiple pages within the approved PUD that never were cleaned up and resent, so those would need to be cleaned up. Other than that, I think I drove through on Friday and looked at everything again. The project is very well underway. I think most of the lots are sold or built on. There's not very many left in Fraser Meadows, 1 or 2. It looks really nice. I personally think Fraser Falls will look nice. I think these details just need to be hammered out, and because they're just not quite okay. They just need to be fixed. So if you choose to have a sidewalk, great, no action needed. If you choose to give them relief on the sidewalk, then there needs to be an amendment to do that, because we do require sidewalks, and that was required in the approval. I don't think, when I said on access clarification, there really isn't any change. The access to Harvard is going to stay the same, and just really clarifying that there are 3 accesses to the south. one in the middle, and the two on the east and west are specifically for emergency services. And the perimeter screening, there does need to be clarification and determination on that to determine if the screening fence is considered a perimeter fence like Harvard. And if you put in a sidewalk, we talked about, right now there's a 5 foot, a side yard of 5 feet for the setbacks of the home. I'm fine with that. Actually, should it be more? So I don't think so, but those are all the things that I saw could be potential issues in cleaning it all up. And as of right now, the request is that there are no shared amenities between Fraser Falls and Fraser Meadows. That is the request. You have a lot of decisions to make.
Who wants to start? I'll start. Sure. All right. Yeah.
I can go by myself.
No. We will take a 5 to 10 minute break. Starting at 7:32. Our meeting's back in order. We were at a time of questions about the staff report that we just heard. If you could reiterate one more time for me. I wasn't even trying to be funny. Just clarify one more time why this is a minor amendment. And what I'm asking about specifically is 2H, with the result in any other change inconsistent with any standard or condition imposed by the city council when they approved. We're going from gated to public and shared amenities to not shared amenities. Those were two conditions that the council approved with the original PUD.
Yes.
Correct.
So we went from gated to ungated, and then let me look at sorry. Let me look right here. Give me 1 second. Ouch. I was trying to remember. So the Planning Commission denied the request originally to go from gated to ungated, and then it moved on to City Council. And during that time, I think, I'm trying to remember the details now, there was just a constant conversation about amenities. And because at the end of the day, the council approved it with the sharing of amenities, because that appeared to be the direction that the people who showed up, that appeared to be the direction that they wanted at that time. But they didn't, there was inconsistency as they went forward in what level of amenities were required for new subdivisions. And because it seemed like that the amenities conversation wasn't as relevant to the council, and knowing that this had been not shared and then shared, and then I just felt like it could be a minor amendment. So that was my decision. If you do not feel comfortable with that, I am also okay with whatever direction you want to go. If you feel like you want to challenge that decision, we can address it. I think the appropriate process would be to appeal my decision to the Board of Adjustment.
Yeah, I don't necessarily want to challenge it. I just wanted to clarify it a little bit. And then going from gated to not gated, we're still trying to keep the intent of the original PUD as sort of semi-gated, right? I mean,
it wasn't the gates as much
not
as
private.
one access.
Right, it was more the access point than the gating.
And the lot yield was dramatically impacted if you did cul-de-sacs versus gates. And so in the conversation between definitely between me and TEP, who submitted the preliminary plat, the conversation was, it is in the best interest of the developer to get a better lot yield and more regular usable lots to have two gates than to have two cul-de-sacs.
Yeah, I like this design with the two gates and the one access point to the south. Somebody else want to jump in? You guys have comments? I've got quite a few. So.
Just to confirm, the gates are for emergency services only, correct? So they will not be usable gates. Usable for everyday.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Greg?
I think that with regard to sharing of amenities, I remember that conversation, and it seemed like one subdivision was trying to control how the new one is going to be developed and what things they could and couldn't do. I don't think we have any purview in that. I think that needs to be fought out some other area. As far as I like the three gates with the 3 access points with 2 of them gated for emergency use, so you control it with 1 access point. I think that's a good solution for that. I think it needs to be a perimeter fence, because that way it maintains the look.
Yeah,
And it doesn't look like Petticoat Junction, you know? And I think that the developer needs to install it. This
I
was
agree
their
with that.
idea. I think they need to put up the fence and not put that as a burden on the homeowner. As far as that sidewalk goes, I think it makes no sense to require them to have a sidewalk right up next to a perimeter fence, or just on the other side of a perimeter fence, on the north side of that. I think we could relieve them of that sidewalk requirement, and yeah, I don't know, Ms. Hilton, I don't know how we would do that, if we would do it in this group, or if that would require a more formal recommendation. That's gonna be a variance on that PUD, right? To not.
Yes, sir.
Okay. But other than that, I think these others are pretty easily recommended modifications to this, and we can move forward from there.
Is the sidewalk, the proposed sidewalk, it's on the north side of the fence?
The engineering documents do show it as along the north side. I'll call it 128th. I can't remember what it landed as, but I think one document says 126, another one says 128th. But
So between the perimeter fencing and the homes?
and the street.
And the street?
Yep.
Wouldn't that be the south side?
It's on the south side of the north side of the street.
Oh, okay. South side of the fence.
Yes.
I like it.
With the sidewalk?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. What do you,
Bless you.
Amy or Craig, any conversation about potential sidewalk there?
Are you saying you like having the sidewalk there and?
I think so.
Okay,
On both sides of the street.
right.
Yes.
But south of the fence, north of the street?
Yes.
Okay. It's hard to tell, you can't see it on
Mm-hmm.
the drawing. I think maybe my confusion a little bit is just how to approach all the different moving pieces of this particular, I'm not sure how to approach that.
Well, the sidewalk is already in there, correct? So no action would leave the sidewalk
Okay,
if that's what's
Because
chosen.
that's a UDO requirement.
okay.
The perimeter fencing for screening by the developer would need to be part of any motion. We like the access. How about shared amenities or not shared amenities? It's currently not shared. So no action would
No,
leave
it
them.
currently is shared. When the PUD was originally, or was last approved, so when it was approved as PUD 127 and we renamed it, we went back to Fraser Falls. During the council hearing, based on the conversations of the people who showed up, they recommended that the amenities be shared, and that is what was approved. That is the PUD document language that was approved. So that language is on page 205 of 198 and that is 4 of 10 and the approved PUD, because it literally says the following amenities will be shared by both community members. So what I did, if you approve this, then that all of those red lines have to be adjusted and removed and or corrected.
And the applicant is requesting to not share amenities at this point.
Yes, sir.
Is Robert representing this?
Charlie is representing.
Okay.
Can we hear from him, like, where the end game is this? Because I've been
Yeah.
on this council for a while, and this comes up like twice a year. this neighborhood. I'm really excited. I would be really excited to get it over with. I just want to know what he wants. What's the end game here to get the neighborhood completed?
Any other questions or discussion from commission for staff? Yeah, go ahead.
So was this approved based on shared amenities? So Fraser Meadows, are all those homeowners assuming that they get shared amenities based on an approval before, however long ago?
The biggest bonus would be for future, in my opinion, the real value would be to the future owners who buy into Fraser Falls, which is not currently built. Because Fraser Falls would not have a swimming pool. They have a sports court and some other things, but they would not have a swimming pool. So I would, as a member of Fraser Falls subdivision, I would be more impacted by this decision. If I am a member of Fraser Meadows, in my opinion, not belonging to an HOA currently or ever, I would, as a member of an HOA, would benefit from the dollars that come in from shared amenities, but I would, and this was one of the arguments, is we don't want to share our pool. It's not big enough to begin with. And we heard that a lot. We don't want to share our pool. It's already too small for our neighborhood. We don't want them coming down and swimming in our pool. It was not meant to be shared. We do not want it shared. That sentiment was stated on multiple occasions. And so, so the benefits, there's pros and cons to every decision, right? So I'm going to buy a home. If you approve the amendment, it's basically, I think pretty much at this point, as recommended by staff, then when I move into Fraser Falls, I will not have access, unless the HOAs come up with some special deal, I won't have access to their pool. Because if you approve it tonight, then that shared amenities package goes away and is removed from the PUD language, and therefore removed from the HOA language.
Are there any homeowners that have moved into Fraser Falls after we passed this the last time that will be adversely impacted by this change?
There are no homes built in Fraser Falls. There aren't even streets. We're almost there for streets. About to get streets. So right now, there's no one impacted in Fraser Falls.
What amenities are in Fraser Falls if we take these away?
According to the approved PUD, there will be a play set, there will be swings, there will be benches and walking areas. There would be a fishing pond and a sports court that would include basketball and pickleball.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Wilmerhauser, you want to come forward, please? Help us out with this because we don't want to do this again.
My name is Charlie Wilmerhauser. I live at 12901 South 27th Street in Bixby, Oklahoma. Bless her heart, Marseille's tried, but this is way more simple than what she's had to put up with. I didn't make any of these changes until the homeowners complained, and she asked me to make the changes. I never changed any of this. If you go look at the original drawing, we had the houses facing this way. These people would rather look at a fence than beautiful front houses. So we changed it for that reason, and I lost 4 more lots. So that's all that I did. And the shared amenities, they complained about it, and I said, if you don't want to share them, fine, we don't have to share them. Because I'm putting an indoor pickleball court in the other one if I can afford it. And they would have got to use it, but they didn't want to do that. But now, we've got the homeowners formed. They're $3,000 a quarter negative on the dues. And they want to complain about the 125. It's going to have to go to 150, or they're not going to be able to afford to keep up anything.
Help us with what we're talking about tonight, though.
Okay, I know. Well, that's what I'm trying to tell you. I only made the changes per their request through numerous meetings with them. They called me to the meetings, told me what they want. They approved the no sidewalk because why would you want a solid fence and sidewalk to look at if you lived across the street? Wouldn't you want to look at pretty houses with pretty yards? You go to all neighborhoods, Yorktown, there's no fences between the neighborhoods. You don't have any fences between
But the newest proposal doesn't show those homes facing the south. That's not what we're.
The first one
but it
did.
doesn't now. We're talking about tonight.
Okay, If you're just talking about now, the shared amenities do not have to happen. Only Fraser Meadows. All those people just want the amenities to themselves. If you go to Yorktown, which is 535 houses, their pool is the same size as ours. They have 2 pickleball courts. We will have 2 pickleball courts. So if they don't want to share the amenities, that's fine. She asked me not to do that, to not share the amenities. I said, that's fine. I had to talk to Schubert Mitchell because they bought all the lots. That's why we changed the name to Fraser Meadows 3 and 4, so that way all the amenities could be used, because that's what everybody thought. That's why I went back to Fraser Falls, so that people getting, if they bought in Fraser Meadows 3 and 4, wouldn't you think you should go down and use any Fraser Meadows amenities? Well, that's not what it is. So that's why we changed the name back, so now they won't expect that. But it's very easy and very clear. And they've called me to several meetings, and I've agreed to everything they asked for. But the sidewalk and the fence makes no sense. Why would you want to look at a solid fence? There's no neighborhoods that have solid fences. I don't care about putting it up if that's what you want. But why would you want to do that? I try to make my neighborhoods pretty. If you've been in it, we've got a pretty landscape pool. We got a nice pond. We've got 40 trees ordered that once they're a certain height, we're going to put them around the pond. We did all that work in the woods. We put all that walk trail through the woods. Have you guys been in any of my other neighborhoods? I did Hyde Park. I did Yorktown. I mean, I did part of Yorktown at the end. I did Elm Ridge, Fraser Lake, Fraser Falls, Fraser Meadows. Why would you want to look at a fence instead of pretty houses, landscape front yards, stuff like that? You can do whatever you wish. I don't care. I'm just trying to do the best neighborhood that I can. That's all it is. That's simple. I made all these changes because they asked me to. Not her, but the whole city. Everybody was there. The engineers, Tanner, she was there. That's why. So, and the amenities shouldn't be shared. They should have theirs. These people should have theirs. But the board's already asking me what would you charge for them to be able to pay. You know, there's a lot of neighborhoods in town where people pay to go use their pools. Over at 67th and Sheridan, I think there's that Park Plaza, and they all use the Red Barn one. That's all over town. They're quickly finding out, because I gave them all the budgets, and we've had 3 board meetings, how much it costs to maintain a development like this. So that's all it was. I only made the changes per their request. I didn't come in and ask for that. I did change away from the gated because we had conversations, not blaming anybody. She's done a wonderful job, and she, bless her heart, digs into this all the time and calls me all the time, or texts me all the time, even 5:30 at night last night while I was up playing with the buffaloes, because I worked as a docent up there one day a month. So anyway, it's whatever you guys want. I've always been willing to do whatever they ask, but I don't want to make a solid fence that everybody looks at. It just doesn't even make sense. I don't have any problems with the sidewalk, but what's it going to do? I'd rather see the green grass and not have so much concrete. We already got the street all concreted. Those 3 streets are all going to be blacktop and concreted. Why can't we have grass out there instead of just sidewalks? Whatever, okay? Does that clear it up a little bit?
Cleared up for you, Craig.
I didn't
Appreciate
make any
you doing
changes.
that.
I didn't make any changes except at their request.
Thank you for explaining it.
And
Helps a lot.
I did change it for Schubert Mitchell, who moved into town, and they bought all the lots. They're all sold to them.
I saw the pickleball court. That's.
Yeah, it's nice.
I doubt anybody's used it because it's 125 degrees outside. But
There's been a few. That's why I'm going to try to make the other one indoors, and everybody can go indoors.
perfect.
Thank you.
Right, we'll open the floor. Anybody else wish to speak? For or against?
Just want to add that the shared amenities is an issue because it requires Meadows to annex the HOA of Falls. And they're not willing to do that because they don't want them sharing their pool. That's the bottom line. I think that's so. If Falls cannot walk into and use Meadows walking trails, and cannot walk to their swimming pool, there's no reason to have a sidewalk to invite them to do that. And that's what it does. And that's why we put the application in, no shared amenities, because that's not what Meadows wants. They don't want to have it shared. And then remove the sidewalk. Fence is up to Charlie. So, and he doesn't like the fence, so.
I'll be glad to put it up, but you know.
All right over to 2060 East 128th Place South, right across the street. When I bought my home, and on that street there are three $550,000 homes, 2-story, nice houses. When I bought my house, it was a gated community. 2,200 was the minimum square foot. And lots of people bought houses in Fraser Meadows 1 that are $500,000+. There's a lot of smaller ones now since Schuber Mitchell bought all the excess property. And Schuber Mitchell just bought Fraser Falls. We look across the street, and I didn't make him turn the houses sideways, but as I was telling you, the property, the street itself is in Fraser Meadows. There's about 7 feet or 8 feet. Yeah, feet. That belongs to Fraser Meadows. It doesn't belong to Fraser Falls. Okay, on the other side of the street. His houses in the original drawing would have been on our property. The driveways would have all been on our property. I don't care kind of what they do, but you've got a plan, shows the houses sideways. If we don't do something and people don't build fences, then I'm looking in people's backyards. I'm not looking at their pretty front yards because their front yards face east-west. I'm looking in their backyards. So if you leave it up to the homeowners to put up fences, I don't know what you're going to get. You're either going to get nothing, you're going to get backyards that are what people want, but that's my view. Okay? My view is the backyard. It's not the front of their houses, it's all their backyards. Basically, because they're pointing this way all the way down the street. The sidewalk right now, Ehrlich's and I can't remember, Tavier's houses, their sidewalks turn right up into, they come all the way around the cul-de-sac, and they turn. The sidewalk comes right up to that edge. It turns like it goes down that street. All the other streets in our neighborhood and the streets in his neighborhood will have sidewalks on both sides. Because people walk, and people will walk between both of the housing developments on the streets. They'll walk their dogs, they'll walk at night. So not having a sidewalk over there is going to be unique. Okay. And I don't mind people walking up and down the street, but it would look nice, I think. But I don't know what to do about the fence. That is a question. What are we going to look at? Are we going to look at 80 different fences? Excuse me, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9 different fences going down the street? Because getting them to follow covenants, sometimes even in our housing development, is hard. Getting them to build the right kind of fence. We'll have all kinds of different fences. We'll have no fences. We'll have crash gates with nothing around them. I don't know. I think it would look good with the fence. The fence doesn't have to be 8 feet tall, but a fence down that between us. Now, I've been in housing developments around where we live where they have fences between them. Okay? I don't know what the answer is, but I think delineating the difference between us might be a good idea. I don't know what kind of fence to put up, but having, crash gates sitting out by themselves will look different. I think I don't know, if you go down Kimberly Clark Way, all the way to the end of 151st Street, they've had some housing developments that have crash gates in them. But they have fences that come up to the crash gates. So, Like I said, I've been in every meeting except for the one October 24 when things changed. But we've come to every one of these meetings. I'm surprised the HOA, they have a meeting tonight. So I just would like it to look nice and work.
That's what we're working on.
Yeah, I know.
Thanks for your comments. Appreciate it. Anyone else? Anybody else wish to speak on this item? Seeing no one?
Don't come back again.
We will, okay, we'll close the floor, come back to the commission, and we can hear a motion on this. We can have further discussion on the fencing, potential fencing, sidewalk.
Can I say one thing?
Nope.
I mean, I understand both points on the fence, but I lived in Wakefield on the Water for, I think, 12 years. We had the same exact fence that goes around the neighborhood. It was never a problem for us. And living inside the neighborhood, it was nice to have that delineation, and it was a value to the homeowners to be in a smaller, gated, I guess, neighborhood to, for that. I do understand, I didn't until you described that. I don't think I'd want to look across the yard and be able to see into the backyards of the people turned sideways in front of me, even though I'm not a huge fan of wooden fences or, that type of look.
Yeah.
They're not my
It's
favorite.
going to be inconsistent. It's going to be split rail. It's going to be privacy. It's going to be who knows what.
Yeah,
None?
I think it
No
should be
fencing?
the builder. I think it should be there, and I think that would be the cleanest way to give a nice view to the people already there. So that's my opinion.
Hey, Scott, why was Charlie not able to make a comment?
The floor was closed. He had his turn.
Usually we have people come up, the public talk, and then the applicant can address any concerns after that.
You want to hear more?
Well, I'd like to hear what his one comment
Charlie,
is.
come on up. We have a request for you to rebut what you heard.
My only comment is, I already talked to Super Mitchell, and those fences are all gonna be just like the perimeter fences. I'm gonna make all those houses be the same. They will not be able to be.
Well, they'll be all the same if we have you put it in as well,
Yep. Well, they will, but
and maybe nicer.
maybe. But I don't front yards, I mean, they may wanna park out a little bit or something. You're taking a lot of stuff away from the existing houses. And by the way, it was Mr. Fraser who turned those lots around. So, anyway, I'll make sure all the fences are exactly the same. So he doesn't have to worry about that.
Thank you.
He won't be seeing any backyards.
I'd like to make a motion to approve JZ 26 for the PUD 127, including, which is a minor amendment number 1, including not having shared amenities and including a perimeter fence, consistent perimeter fence with sidewalk next to it. Have I missed anything else on that?
What about by the builder?
Yes.
Provided by builder.
Do it by the builder, and then that way it's always consistent.
Ms. Hilton, does that cover what you're looking for in this?
I was reading through this. I think I understand what you're saying, but for the motion, maybe we clarify installed as one complete screening unit. And it needs to be built by the builder or the developer, not the individual lot owner.
That is correct. We want it to be consistent or uniform, and it's much easier if the builder does that, or the developer. not the homeowners. We don't leave it up to the homeowners.
Okay.
And I'll accept a second to that.
Did we get everything?
I believe so.
I'll second.
Brandon, let's vote. Item 6, please.
Boers,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Sellers,
Yes.
Nixon,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Chair West.
Yes. Motion carries. Item 7 are amendments to the Jenks Unified Development Ordinance, Article 3, Base District Specific Standards, Article 6, Development Standards, Article 7, Sign Standards, Article 8, Subdivision Standards.
Most of this you've already seen, and you will see that we did take under consideration comments from Ms. Montgomery, and staff did go back on multiple things and look at it again. There are a lot of pages. I will not be going through them all. I'm going to say there is table 16-3-1. We did address something that just came up in regards to lot splitting and ag property, so that's what you will see there. The idea we had was, we call them flag lots, but the reality is we are very close to being built out. We have a lot of irregular shaped lots, and in order to make an ag property, if you have the overall area, why not allow it? So that changed. The then we have lot widths in RE and Ag. That's on page 3 of 3, 229. We have some footnotes here on page 230. Place of assembly. So this has been kicked around a lot. We had a young lady come in wanting to do a place of assembly on Main Street, and she had to go through the specific use permit process, which was, it's fine and probably should be, but there are some spaces that already have large open space. And so what we did was create a minimum and maximum square footage. So if you're under this square foot, you can do it with under certain conditions. Otherwise, if it's greater than that, I believe you have to still submit an SUP, and probably, as you remember, would need a parking plan. Drive-throughs, address that. We talked about that last time. What would it look like on Main Street? And primarily, we have one location that is a non-conforming drive-through use, and felt like that the benefits of that far outweighed the negatives, and wrote it in such a way that it would not be arbitrary to anybody that has already been told no, and would not be arbitrary to anyone who would come in the future. So I felt like the language was solid enough to support decisions that have already been made and future decisions. And I believe our legal staff would agree with that. Storefront awnings, we're having a real issue, in my opinion. If you go to, are part of the Main Street program, or you visit other main streets, which I do pretty much on a weekly basis, just saw some really cute. I should start sending out pictures in the early morning and late at night. Just kidding. I shouldn't. Of the places I visit, but there's a time and place for specific types of awnings, and what we're getting a lot of on Main Street are metal. I call them tabletop awnings because they're just like, it's like someone shoved a table in to the side of a building, and they're not really appropriate to be replicated over and over and over on a Main Street. There's no texture, there's no character. It's a beautiful awning for a really nice strip center or in a commercial area, but it should not be the only awning we're seeing on Main Street. So kind of standardizing some recommendations there. You can see that on, I love the illustration that Carl made for us. It says yes to the exhibit on, or the image on the left, and it says no to the image on the right for Main Street only. We're not talking about the whole city. So those are some of the big changes. There's a lot of just cleanup and some of the following changes. I'm going to skip over the landscaping. I'll let Carl grab that later. I think that for the most part, he and Ms. Montgomery have shared a lot of emails, and I am happy to let a landscape architect deal with those questions. So he has primarily made those changes. I think there's a couple of things that were like, probably not, but for the most part, we've tried to be accommodating. I will say I think one of the things was single-family residential irrigation, and we are not requiring that. If it's written into the code that you're required to have a tree and certain amount of plantings, if those plantings die, we have the authority to tell you to replace them, bottom line. If you don't put in irrigation and your plants die, you got to put in new plants because you didn't water them. So that's that. More landscaping, lots of landscaping. Carl was able to move it out of some other chapters and make more sense. Having used our code in the private sector, he was already kind of familiar with it. He did a couple of landscape plans in his former life, is specifically for projects here, and so he's gone through that and made those edits accordingly. And some great new exhibits, I think, that will help everyone. Let's see. I'm not going to go into any of that. If you have questions, we'll answer those in a little bit. Sign code. We really want to, we're trying to make it, what we did the last time we brought you sign edits was really make it so that we took the old code because we were overly restrictive. We looked at what they were allowed before, looked at what they were allowed now, kind of tried to find that middle ground. So maybe it kind of right-sized it. So you've all approved that in the past. One thing that happened was the pole sign was no longer permitted unless you were within 300 feet of a highway, etc. And somehow that got deleted when we approved the last round of edits. I need that to be back in immediately. That was basically, you don't want Quick Trip coming in on Elm and whatever and putting a 300-foot pole sign up, or not a 300-foot, a 40-foot pole sign there. So fixing that. In a lot of places where it said 200, like number 200, it should have been spelled out. So a lot of inconsistencies. I think in our next round of edits, we'll bring you a piece of language or in the administrative section that says we can clean up things like that without bringing it to you. Because if you write the word 200 and then you use the word or use the numerals 200, but you miss it in the next paragraph, we should be able to fix that without more as a Scribner's error than having to have a public hearing about if you should spell it with letters and numbers. Can't think of anything else that stands out that we changed. Lots of questions about temporary signs. I'm not really inclined to change it too much more than what's already written. We cannot, according to federal law, regulate content, which we all know. We can regulate placement and duration, like how long it's up. The problem gets into this group of people needs an exception. This group of people needs an exception. And now you're back to being arbitrary. So the way it's written, I'm pretty comfortable with. If HOAs want to be more restrictive, they can. If you all want to be more restrictive, if council wants to be more restrictive, I will take it to the city attorney before I bring it back to you, because I think it's okay. Well, it is okay the way it's written. I just can't, like, if I'm a realtor and my house doesn't sell for 120 days, I need my sign up for 120 days. But if I'm running for office, I probably shouldn't have my sign up for 120 days. So see what I'm saying? It is, we can't regulate content. We can regulate number of days, etc., or placement of the sign. But it just gets really complicated when you're trying to decide what is a good amount of time to let. And I don't have the manpower to approve a temporary sign for 30 days and then take it down for 14 days and then approve another for 30 days. Like, it's too much. I can't do it. I could, if you want me to, we will. That was, I think, most of the sign stuff. Let me see. Street designs. Don't think we made a lot of changes there. Unless Mr. Fritchen remembers anything very, very significant that he changed, I don't really have anything extra to add.
In that street design, we did add sidewalk escrow options.
Oh, yep.
We're having many situations, well, not many, but there are situations arising where it may be advantageous for the developer to put monies in an escrow for the sidewalk in cases where there may be a road widening project getting ready to happen in a couple of years. There's no sense to build a sidewalk only to rip it out and have it installed. There's been some language added to that, and I borrowed it from Owasso's code when I was there. So
another example was Pine Ridge, the one that you all just approved at 141st. It has a very, very steep hill on the perimeter. And the only way, it sounds like, I have driven out there, but the only way really to make that, to do that safely, not only would you have to install the sidewalk, you would have to have railing because of the bluff at the edge, etc. So it may not make sense to have a perimeter sidewalk there. And the incline would not be ADA either. So those were some of the reasons of the changes. If you all saw anything glaring or overly restrictive, I'm happy to hear what your thoughts are.
Is there any way to delineate on signage? Like, I know we can't do content, but call it a real estate sign or a, okay, just curious.
No.
Got shot down on that. I mean, that's an easy way to, because they're like metal. I mean, there is some distinction there between that and the corrugated little flimsy sign. I just would think there would be some way to delineate that so that you can say this can be up 120 days or whatever, but this, I mean, that just keeps the city clean, and I think we've really got to work on cleaning up some things, in my opinion. Not just signs, but I don't know, just something to think about. I don't know the answer to it right now, but we can't be the only one with this dilemma.
There's a lot of communities that are far more restrictive than us, and there are communities that are far less restrictive. It boils down at the end of the day to the desire to enforce it, in my opinion. So
yeah, I understand the desire and manpower to enforce it, but I think it being written is the first step to it being better controlled. Whether some people do and some people don't, and whether we can enforce it, but it's at least A, enforceable if you could and or ever wanted to, and B, knowing that there is such a thing puts us in a likelihood of people following it more than not at all.
Sure. One of the, I hadn't thought of like literally very, 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 and maybe this was what Ms. Montgomery was alluding to. I hadn't thought of it saying that you can have a post sign made of these materials for X days versus a, I don't know what, I don't know. There's a name for them. I don't know what they're called. Like literally a name. Not, we call them snipe signs, but or trash on a stick. But that's not the. If you go order one, that's not what it's called.
Like bandit signs are called. You know, if you go order like this, the temporary flimsy
Snipe
bandit.
signs.
We call them bandit signs in my industry, but just because they're
right. So there could be
like overnight type
possibly
signs.
that might make sense without being. But then, I don't know, people are so creative. So the next, like, sure, I'll put up a a post sign made of metal with a nice wooden placard for 120 days with my my favorite political candidate.
Yeah, and
I'm
I
just
do
saying,
understand
I don't
that
think we're gonna fix
creativity.
it. But maybe we could, I don't know.
And I don't know that we have to have all the answers today on that, but, something to be thinking about for maybe some future amendment is be looking at what are others doing that make it a little more controllable? Just a thought.
Absolutely.
Our third. No, it's just a second.
Charlotte Montgomery, 10612 South Fir Avenue. In temporary signs, there's nothing in it that says that HOAs can do what they want. I have a real big problem with that because there are specifically 2 sections in the temporary signs where, especially for yard signs, it says that an unlimited number of yard signs may be displayed concurrently for a period of 48 hours. I don't want that in my neighborhood. And then one of the very last things is yard signs in residential districts displayed for a period of 48 hours or less shall be exempted from these requirements. I'm kind of going, oh, no. So I have issues with unlimited anything for a temporary sign, mostly from a perspective as residential, but I would think you would want that for commercial and other uses too. But I would specifically like to see in temporary sign standards, I had provided that, it was on the first page, item 4, other provisions. Private HOA covenants may establish, regulate, and enforce additional requirements for number of signs, display periods, location, and size, provided they do not conflict with or exceed the limits established in this UDO. You do not have anything in temporary signs that helps out an HOA with these issues. You need to have that in there. That's the only thing I had to say.
Question for you, Charlotte. So what authority do we have over HOAs? I mean, HOAs are enforced by their homeowners, not the city.
Yeah, you wouldn't.
Yeah. And so.
But there's nothing in here that
Shouldn't you
says.
go to the HOA board of directors and ask them to say, hey, have a covenant that we can't do this?
Well, but what I'm saying is, yeah, we can have that in there, but it's been asked in actually both HOAs I've been in, especially after this last election. But here in the code, it says that we can have all of this. It doesn't say that the HOA can do other requirements. And that's what I'm saying here is that we need in the temporary signs to have something that says, hey, but if the HOAs, you want to do your own thing, you can, as long as it doesn't exceed what the UDO says. Right now, there's nothing in there, so we have residents that are coming out and saying, we can put up whatever we want for as long as we want.
Okay. Got it.
Would that not be, though, if they have the majority vote and they write it into their HOA, then we would not have, I don't know the answer to this right now, we would not have the ability to say, but it's in the city code that you can do it. The HOA has elected that you cannot, and they control their own HOA, just like you can't have rental homes in the HOA, or you can't have whatever. That's written in their covenants. They can write their covenants with majority vote.
I think
And
what
we
the
cannot-
HOA is, though, can't exceed ours.
Yes.
Can't exceed the city ordinance.
That's correct. And that's
They can
what,
do whatever they want as long as it doesn't exceed the city ordinance.
that's what our attorney has told
Yes.
us, and that's
Yeah.
what they've also told
Makes
us
sense.
about short-term rentals. We have to be very careful with that and not exceed anything that the city may have out there, which is pretty generic, so.
So you're requesting, for clarification, requesting that we say you can exceed it and legally?
No, what I'm saying is that
It does say, and enforce additional requirements. So you're asking that we give the HOAs permission to exceed the UDO in their personal private requirements.
I may have to work on some wordsmithing on that.
I think that's what it says.
You know, it is really hard because if every time I would go down the rabbit hole and say, well, it needs to be this, and I'm kind of going, yeah, but that wouldn't work if because across, when you look at your table, you see that it's PPP all the way across for all the districts. So I'm kind of going, well, that works fine for residential, but it's not going to work for this other. So I see the challenge. But we need something in the temporary, is what I'm saying, that it clearly says that the HOA can have, they can have a say over number of signs, display periods, and location and size, as long as they don't conflict with or exceed the limits established in the UDO.
I understand the direction you want to go with it. I do not think that I probably don't understand what your private conversations and the direction that the attorneys are saying. For instance, in a private gated subdivision, you already know the police are not coming in to address speeding because it's private and it's gated. So there's so many things that in private gated subdivisions with HOAs that the city would not come in and do, period.
Well, I'm not looking just at
Right, but I'm just saying, so that's one section the city wouldn't regulate, but we repeatedly say we do not enforce private covenants. So if someone wants, if someone comes to the city with an application, we may ask them for a letter of support from their HOA, but at the end of the day, whether you have support or do not have support, like if I made an application for whatever, and the HOA does not provide a letter, they don't want to, they're busy, they're dysfunctional, whatever, I'm not going to deny that resident what is allowed by right under our code just because they couldn't get a letter of support from the HOA, because I don't enforce those covenants anyway. So the way that it's written, it says private HOA covenants may establish, regulate, and enforce additional requirements for the number of signs, display periods, location, and size, provided they do not conflict with or exceed. But I think you are asking for us for the HOAs, for your private covenants to exceed what we would allow.
I don't want them to exceed.
You do, because you want them to exceed if I say you can only do it for 30 days, you may only want it to do 10. So you want to exceed what
I see what you're saying. I'm thinking exceed as a number of larger.
Right.
Okay.
But the way it's written, it's just exceed the limits. So if I put a limit of 45 days, you would like a limit of 15 days. If I put a limit as the city, if the city code says, you can only have this size for this amount of time. Your private neighborhood may say, we want half that size and we want it for half the time.
Correct.
And you want the city to write something that says you have that authority? I can't do that.
Well, then how do we solve the issue with some of the, again, I have a problem with, for 48 hours, they can put up as many signs as they want.
I know, because Susie graduated and we're so excited. And
yes, and literally they will paper everything.
Yes, they do. No,
but as long as it doesn't exceed 48 hours, which is what our requirements would be, could they not put up a 48-foot sign for a day? As long as it doesn't, or whatever the size and
the word
length.
exceed is really what she's asking for is more restrictive. She's saying,
yes.
I want you to give me permission to be more
More
restrictive than the
yes.
city.
Yeah.
The word exceed probably isn't the
And
accurate word.
if the homeowners agree to that in a board vote or in a covenant or whatever they want to make, and it doesn't exceed the city's requirements.
So when I get a phone call saying Susie's daughter is graduating and it's been 48 hours or it's been 24 hours and I want those signs to come down, I'm going to say, oh, she gets another 24 hours to keep those signs up.
Unless the homeowners association.
And then I'm still going to say that because I'm not going to enforce their private covenants. I'm still going to say.
No, you're not going to enforce it.
I'm not
But
opening a code enforcement case.
But the
But the
I'm not
homeowners
saying
association can
I don't
fine
want
for
you
that.
to enforce it. I just want to know.
They can fine.
But you're also limiting.
I cannot help you enforce your private covenant.
I know
Yeah,
you're not going
you're not
to
gonna get
enforce
the-
it, but you also
You're
are
not going to
saying
get the
that
city
you
to
can't.
enforce it.
You can't.
But you can
exceed them.
enforce it if your homeowners have agreed to it.
She can enforce it, but what Marseille's saying is they can't write it in their covenants to be outside or exceed the
They can't
city
exceed it. right.
ordinance.
I mean,
But by exceeding, she's not talking about physical number of like signs, for instance, exceeding
just
the
basically
restriction.
saying, we have our own set of private rules and we want you to support our limitations. We want you to tell Susie to take her sign down because we said she could only have signs for 24 hours and you said you can have signs for 48 hours and we are more restrictive and our HOA is more restrictive and we all voted to be more restrictive, but Susie will not take her signs down and I'm going to say she has 48 hours at the end.
I know I don't want you to do that. I want you to. I don't want that in there. I want those taken out. Specifically, those are the ones that I wanted to be
No, I
taken out, where it was
understand
unlimited. That really bothers me when you have terms like unlimited in there.
Susie is we're very proud of her.
I think the unlimited, I would think you're going to end up with, you could
We are not.
end up with some very strange things. And
I don't think so, but
It has happened. I'm going to say that. That's why I zero in on those things. We've had that happen before.
for weeks.
Not for weeks, but like for the whole week. A large yard covered in balloons and signs and things on the roof and balconies for signs. Yeah. So anyway, I don't want to berate that.
I
but
will.
But
Carl and I will look at that specific section. As far as the number 4 provisions of allowing, or like, I'll ask Teresa. I don't mind asking, but I don't
Okay.
think that we can do that because at the end of the day, it's still your responsibility to enforce your private covenants.
then can't you make your the city's requirements more restrictive?
If you want to, if they want to, if the council wants to, I feel like it is very restrictive and we almost don't enforce it at all. I don't understand why we would make it more restrictive because there's no enforcement on signs right now.
I know. He knows too. He picks them up all the time. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte. Further discussion on item 7? Is there a motion to adopt the suggestions?
Make a motion to adopt the amendments for Article 3, Article 6, Article 7, and Article 8.
Second.
Vote please, Brandon.
Boers,
yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Sellers,
Yes.
Nixon,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Chair West.
Yes. Planning updates.
I can't think of anything right off the bat. We have a few interesting projects coming. Hopefully we'll get some more information about them. I can't remember if I updated you on the library lot progress. I think I mentioned it the last time. Did I mention that? We are trying to, we'll be hiring I already have the selection for an engineering firm and a legal firm to get the title cleared up and get the platting started so that we can start moving towards development. So that's about as exciting. I think that's really exciting, actually.
All right. So 8:41, meeting is adjourned. Thank you, guys. Good job.